Happy Friday and welcome back to our QuestionPro Fireside Chats. Today we're going to do something a little bit different and we're going to talk a little bit more than usual about QuestionPro. And I've got a great guest here, Adrian Mendes, who heads up our entire global customer success team for our research and insights product groups. And the reason why I wanted to bring in something a little bit more internal to kind of talk about QuestionPro from a customer success side of things is because it's actually a really unique way that we think about the world as a software company, that we don't just sell software, but we actually enable you to do research and run complex surveys. And sometimes that does come down to great support, great service. And I do think that's an area that we do really well as QuestionPro. And so we wanted to talk about it. And we wanted to give you as, potential customers of QuestionPro or customers of QuestionPro an idea for how it works and how you can actually get the most out of QuestionPro if you're kind of using our customer success team. So, Adrian, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Asim, for having me on the show. This is great. We're putting out what happens internally. I mean, long time due, but yeah, I think it's good. I love the fact that we're doing this today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know, this is something that I think in the SaaS industry and software as a service industry, we've been hearing more and more about this kind of notion of customer success. And right. It's specifically not called customer support, right? That's maybe an aspect of it, but customer success in many ways is different than what you would traditionally think of as customer support. So Adrian, maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about what does customer success mean to you and what does it mean in terms of your role and your team? What do we do at QuestionPro?
All right. I think you've started it on the good. You've kind of hit a nerve over there. And you can meet with any customer success manager, customer success executive, or an associate, anyone who's in customer success. The one thing that everyone hates or is fighting, every organization that's trying to implement customer success, the one thing that we want to be really clear about is customer support is not customer success. Mm-hmm. Customer support is a part of customer success. But if I'm telling you I'm working in the space of customer success, that is not equivalent to me saying I'm working in the space of customer support. I agree that there is a portion of customer success that has to do support. Yes, absolutely. But it is not the entirety of it. So every organization, every product, every approach is different. I'll tell you how we in QuestionPro define it. I'll tell you what's going on with us. In QuestionPro, customer success is relationship building, understanding the need of the customer, delivering on the need of the customer. And the last thing is my personal favorite, which I've inculcated within the entire team, and the team is now learning, is saying no when it's not possible. I think the one thing that every customer success manager needs to learn is if it is not possible, say no, and then figure out what we can do. If you understand the need and you know it can be met, maybe not exactly how the client wants it, probably in a different way that your product supports it, might as well just say it out loud, right? That is what customer success within QuestionPro is. So you'll have a lot of customer success internally. For those of you who already have like a team edition license or a research license or a communities license, any of the licenses that support customer success, dedicated customer success, you will know one thing, that these people, the managers, are constantly reaching out to you to ask you what you need, what you want, what your pain points are. They want to understand what the end goal is. And that's everything that we want to do. If we understand what the end goal is, we'll be able to guide you in a risk-free environment within the product and tell you, hey, you know what, this is the outlook of what you want. And these are the three possible ways you can get it done and everything that is associated with those ways. Now, we have in QuestionPro, we have a global team, of course, you know that, and we've just a little started speaking about it. So right after last year, QuestionPro had regional customer success teams. Mm-hmm. So we had like an Asia Pacific team, we had a UK team, we had a US team. As of this year, we've consolidated all our teams. And the reason is pretty simple. We want every customer, irrespective of which region they're from, what their want is, what their need is, to have a unified, consistent experience across the entire product. So as of this year, we've gone global based on the product. So like you give my introduction at the beginning, I'm dealing with the research suite, which is surveys, team editions, communities, insights hubs, polls, audience, qual sites that's coming in right now. That's what I deal with, or that's what the clients I help out at least. Now, what is my role in all of this? I'm supposed to strategize, maintain, upskill my customer success reps. Um, Another thing that is really important. Now, this comes a little bit into the customer success leadership phase. Is as an organization, every customer success team faces roadblocks. It could be budget problems, it could be just being heard problems, it could be navigating internal, external kind of hierarchy problems. So as leadership in customer success, that's one of the main things that I also do is make that path clearer so that whatever the end goal is of the customer is met. So we don't face internal, none of the customer reps face an internal block, and then that hampers delivering to the customer at the end. So in a nutshell, that's something that we do.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And so, for everybody out there that maybe isn't familiar with QuestionPro, for almost every license that you purchase to QuestionPro, so outside of the advanced license, every license that you purchase with QuestionPro will come with a dedicated customer success manager that's working in your time zone 9 to 5. And so, Adrian, what does that mean? So, does that mean that you can hop on a Zoom call with your customer success manager? Like, why is it important that they're dedicated? Why is it important that they're in your time zone? Obviously, we work really hard to make sure that that can happen. Why is it important in the first place?
So I'll put this simply, right? Imagine reaching out to a call center, reaching out to someone to get help on a product. Um, if you reach out, you need to explain the whole situation. You need to explain what your point of view is, what your account is, what are you trying to do. There's a lot of like, this is allowed in my organization, this is not allowed in my organization. I signed up for this, I did not sign up for this. So in order to circumvent that, what we want to do is we want to give you one person who starts the journey with you. So when you start your journey on QuestionPro, a client who's bought the research or any license that supports customer success, we want to give that our partners, the way we put it, our partners a dedicated point of contact internally. So this person is effectively working for the client, but within QuestionPro, and they understand the journey right from contracting to sourcing to scoping, and they understand the problems that you've had, right? Let's say you are not very comfortable, and this is an example I'm throwing out there. Let's say a organization, and we have this problem, is not comfortable with directly reaching out to their customer base through their respondent base from the QuestionPro mailing servers, right? They want to have their own mailing servers. Now, imagine a situation where it's not working. If you come to a person who does not understand the problem, that you need to have your organization represented, you need to explain that. You're wasting time. So in order to stop that, in order to stop you having to repeat yourself and then frustrate yourself because of that, the idea is to give you this dedicated customer success manager whose sole aim is when you have a problem, how can we give you a solution, understanding what you've been through, what you've signed up for, and what the end goal of being on with us is.
Right, right. And I think to me, it makes so much sense, especially in the research space, right? Because when you think about researchers, almost every single researcher is going about their research differently than the other researcher.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think about it, like at the beginning, even just distribution, right? Some clients, some customers are always going to be just doing distribution via email. Some are always going to be doing distribution via external panel. Some are always going to be doing distribution via links or QR codes or mobile devices. But then they don't really switch, right? It's like that is their pattern, right? Okay, I'm always going to be using abstraction logic with all of my surveys. I'm always going to be looking at the data in this way or exporting this way. And so we've got a platform that can do it all. But each individual customer is using their own slice, right? Because they have their own methodology, they have their own approach. And this is where the dedicated customer success manager can come in, right? Because I now already know that you always do your distribution via email in this way. These are the custom fields that you have on your list. This is how often you update your list. This is how you get the raw data. And you're not starting over from zero every time you've got some request or need some help, right? That's really kind of where the dedicated customer success manager comes in.
That's right. And again, I want to broaden. I know, so we are speaking about research over here, but I want to broaden the prospect a little bit more. Not only research, like right now, I'm kind of learning the CX space of what's going on. We have those silos created very, very brilliantly within QuestionPro's. But even on the CX front or your workforce front, workforce is employees. There are so many nuances to protecting employee privacy and data that every solution has to always have the focus, and every organization deals with it differently. At QuestionPro, we are a global organization. We are separated by time zones, united by one company, kind of an approach that we follow. So the process that is very specific to me is very specific to me. It cannot be pushed on any other organization who probably has like a workforce that is siloed to a certain regional operations. So even workforce or CX for that matter. Now CX can be ships, hotels, retail chains. You can have the KFCs of the world having the CX solution, understanding and knowing what you've signed up for, what your base principles policies are, and what your internal process is. Because the one thing that we all hate is changing our internal process. We spend a lot of money in doing that. Because you have to train, reorganize, rearrange. Remember, there's a lot of work that goes in. Customer success in the dedicated space comes right in the smack middle of that, where you would not need to make major changes. And there's a reason I'm saying not make major changes. With every product that you use, we have to innovate ourselves a little bit, right? So if you are moving from another platform to QuestionPro, yes, you would have to go through that minor change, as long as the core requirement, the core policy is not disturbed. That's where the dedicated customer success space comes.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And you mentioned a few things there that I want to kind of dig into. So, you mentioned kind of this idea of migrating over, starting, whether you're migrating from a different platform or starting new with QuestionPro, we're kind of there to help onboard. That's something that your team takes care of. You also mentioned kind of the security and privacy piece. But maybe let's start with the onboarding. Tell us a little bit about that. How does that work with your team when somebody comes over to QuestionPro, whether they're starting new or migrating from a different platform? How does that kind of onboarding phase look like?
Okay, so I'll take the example of someone who is coming from another platform over to us, because that really encompasses everything else. If you're coming scratch new, you're not coming with past data, past baggage along with you, right? So I'm going to take that as my base example of what actually happens. So the onboarding process is pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Once you've done the pre-sales, once you've done the contracting, once you've done the invoicing, we kind of internally have a kick-off where the sales representative connects with the customer success who's been assigned. Now, the assignation process is really, really exciting, because here's what we do. We get someone who understands the industry. So that's number one. We assign a CSM who understands the industry and who understands the scope of the project. And that's the CSM that gets assigned, because we want to bring that expertise. We want to bring expertise from somewhere else in here. So that's number one that happens. Then the sales manager or the sales representative connects with the CSM, explains the scope. The CSM's job during the scoping is just one thing: picking out problems in the contract. And when I say problems in the contract, we're trying to ensure that we've not sold something that was not promised, or that we don't have a solution for. Because if that's happened, we are starting off on the wrong foot, and it needs to be addressed. It needs to be corrected while we begin the journey. Otherwise, we are going down a path which is going to end in frustration at some point. So once that baseline understanding happens, the CSM then reaches out. There is a formal kickoff call that happens. There's an email that goes out. You get a number, an email address, the work time, the work availability, all of that, and you get the next steps. The next steps are pretty simple. We first go to a kickoff call where the customer success rep and the account manager at the time. The account manager maintains the business side of the relationship. This is the person who's dealing with the invoicing, ensuring that your payments are coming in on time, or that your finance team, your procurement team, your sourcing team knows how that either you're delayed on a payment or ensure that the portal part is taken care of, right? All of the external things that need to happen on the client side. So the account manager takes care of all of that. The CSM first debriefs the customer or the organization that's coming in on everything that they've signed up for. The reason we do this is to eliminate misinterpretation of contract. So if I'm calling the contract out to you, it is not because we're trying to learn it again. We're trying to tell you that this is how we've interpreted it. Are we right? Are we wrong? Because we want that clarity as we start. Once we're out of the phase, let's say everything is all right over there. Once we've gone over that phase, the first thing we then do is implement a schedule of implementation. This involves your account setup, your user setup, your bringing in any data that's coming in from another platform. So if you are coming from any one of our fantastic competitors, I mean, they do give us a run for our money. And I think that's what has made us much, 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 much more better. We keep pushing to stay ahead in the competition. So if anyone's coming from one of our fantastic competitors, we want to tell them that, hey, we need the file format in this format. And this is the time that it takes. And these are the nuances that you need to be aware of your competitor that we do not support or that we support. Again, making it easy for you to move and migrate over because there's a process change and it can get frustrating. So pulling those guidelines out, pulling those best practices out is what happens immediately after the kickoff call. Then we go into the implementation where the customer success rep will call out dependencies. So in case we need to do like an SSO setup, right? I'm putting out big names, big words over here. So if you're going for an SSO setup or you're going for some kind of a privacy requirement, or we're looking at a vendor form that needs penetration testing and all of those fancy stuff that needs to happen, we call the stakeholders out and we get those meetings arranged at the get-go because IT stuff takes time. We know that we need to get a handoff going on between the IT teams. Not both the IT teams are available at the same time, so on and so forth. So we get all of that out of the way. And then comes training. Now, the big ask when we get into training is so we prepare an agenda. The customer rep prepares an agenda, sends it out to the customer. The reason for that is for the customer to come back to us and say, hey, this is needed, this is not needed. And can you explain this aspect of your portal with this example? The one ask that we always have with new onboarding customers is, tell us how you need us to explain stuff to you. If you want us to explain it to you from, I'm going to have 100 projects, how do I make it easier for me to implement it? Or explain it in terms of, oh, I have 4 teams that need to run through these hoops. Explain it to me in that perspective. Tell us what your internal process is. So we cater the training program to your specific internal approach, and that makes it easier. That pretty much is the end of the onboarding. And then we get into any custom implementation. Like if you've signed out for a specific developmental project with us, then we kind of go into that, get the project managers involved, establish an SLA, establish a timeline, and then we move ahead from there.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, in some ways, I almost kind of think about it like, when you buy a suit or a tux, right? It's like you can get the off-the-rack version. This is the tailored version, right? And so that's really where, and you've got the off-the-rack version, right? I mean, we've got certifications and online training that you can always do on your own, that you can send, new users, new joiners through. But everything that Adrian's talking about that's the tailoring, right? So, hey, we don't use this stuff. That's why we're asking you, hey, tell us more about your use cases. We're going to customize this training for you, right? It's going to be kind of tailor fit, the setup, the training, everything that comes into this process. And now you're going from that off-the-shelf look to the fully tailored look and having that kind of handheld all the way through.
Right, absolutely. And the analogy I like to use here is mostly when you get a new car, right? The first thing you do is get in the seat, adjust the driving edges, adjust all your rear views. You get your system going, so your phone's connected in the right way. You want to be in the zone when you're driving. You want to ensure your safety is. That is effectively this. You've bought the car. The whole thing is there. And now we are just helping you adjust everything in the car to your needs and requirements. So that's how I like to put it.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I've heard that analogy before, right? That the platform is so powerful. It's like buying a Ferrari, right? And like, there's a lot
Correct.
that goes into that. You got to learn how to drive it. You've got to tune it, right?
Correct.
You can kind of drive it off the lot, but we're that team there that can fully tune it, right? Make sure that you're ready to go and really get the most out of such a powerful product. Maybe you can give us a little bit, with some examples, like what are the types of things that your team is helping? So after we kind of get through this onboarding process, the implementation process, what are the types of things that customers are coming to your team for, where, are good examples where your team can help? And what are some of those SLAs, right? How quickly do you get back to people? How often can customers be using your team? Maybe talk us through that a little bit.
Absolutely. So I'll go with the absolute SLAs that we have, right? In terms of time, in Matrix. I want to get that out because I know this for a fact that sometimes in between a relationship, we forget that these are the standards that are maintained. And it's very important for anyone who's coming into QuestionPro to know that we abide by these rules and we abide by these standards. So whenever a customer reaches out, right, you can call people, you have a direct number always. You'll always have an escalation manager's number. You'll always have an email address that you can reach out to. You'll also have the escalation manager's email address to reach out to. If your dedicated rep is not in town or has taken a sick leave or is just not available, you will usually get an out of office mailer asking you to reach out to an alias. Now that's an alias that has everyone around the globe in the customer success team on it. So even if, let's say, you are a UK client reaching out outside UK hours, and of course the rep is not going to be there, someone from the US team, someone who is operating in the US hours, is going to jump in and sort out the help that you need. At the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to avoid your wait time. So usually the time that we take to respond is 60 minutes, and I'm saying that in an approximation. We try to keep to the 60 minutes, but sometimes if we are on a call or if the rep is on a call and cannot come out of the 60-minute call, it could be like a 10-15 minutes addition to the 60 minutes, but otherwise we'd like to always stay on the 60-minute hard stop. So that's a response basically letting you know, hey, we see you, we see your response, we see your query. I'm going to look into it. There's some background digging that we need to do. If there are questions off the bat, you'll usually get a response back off the bat, and you can get help in what's needed. Now, the resolution SLA depends on what the problem is. If the problem is with the platform, right? Again, we are an IT company at the end of the day. We are offering a SaaS product that works on codes. Code is bound to break, maybe sometimes, and we need to afford a development team some time to fix it so it does not happen again. Now, if you are in one of those situations, a little patience, maybe in terms of how much time it's going to take for us to fix it permanently and release it back, it would be appreciated. But we don't leave you hanging there. What we then try to do is there a temporary way for you to continue doing your work without having to wait for the permanent fix and then put your whole business on hold because of that? So that's the response, the resolution time that we go into. That's usually a one-day thing. So once we know exactly what the problem is, we could take up to 24 hours to figure out what the solution is. If it's going to go beyond 24 hours, every CSM is asked to give you an accurate date, time zone that they're going to reach you in. And you can hold them all accountable to them. If they're not meeting it, escalate. Go ahead and escalate, because, again, there could be something that's got in the way. So the escalation manager can definitely come in and help. I mean, you and I have been in the situation, if you remember, a recent client that we were dealing with, I was out sick, my emails were not working, and the CSM escalation had come in because there was something that was not happening. And the client reached out to you as an escalation manager, and you got things moving in an hour or 2 hours, right? So situations like that happen, and we know what had happened over there. There was a customer, I'm not going to name names, but there was a problem that they were facing in the solution we had built of some sorts. They reached out to the customer success rep was out, and there was no way of people getting in touch with me because I was out on a medical emergency. And that's when the client reached out to you because your email was given as escalation. And the first thing you did was reached out to the rest of the team and got someone on board. And within 2 hours, we had the whole thing fixed and moved out. That's effectively the ecosystem that we've set up. And you know this very well because you and I have had this conversation so many times of how do we make it frictionless? How do we make it easy? How do we make things move ahead? Uh, Another example, and this is a very recent example, right? Uh, Apple changed policies. Firefox changed policies. Google changed policies of how SaaS products or browser cookies are hosted and the security around it. We had those massive changes that happened, and we started getting flags, errors from all the customers coming in at that point of time. When they reached out to the customer success team, it was a product issue. Like we knew it was a product issue. And I wouldn't say product issue, it was just enhancements were rolled out and we needed to up a security game at that point of time. Now, security is not an easy measure. It cannot be fixed within an hour or 2 hours. We need to do a lot of back end work. There's a lot of due diligence that needs to happen before we do the rollout. And then all of us, you, me, Dan, Ken, Sanya, Ginu, Jeswin, we all kind of started working around this. And I think we rolled out an alternate to the solution because we changed our certificates. We pushed our dev team, we pushed our security team internally to go in and do the certificates, because what we did is we cleared out the approval chain because this became really, really important to us at that point of time. And all of us gave all our approvals that this needs to happen right now. And I think within 3 or 4 hours, we had actually solved a security problem that otherwise would have taken 15 days.
I love
So
it. I love it.
setting
It's
up the
always nice to
ecosystem
hear
is
things getting done in days and hours and not weeks, right? I think that's definitely the key point there. You talked a lot about kind of technical problems.
yeah.
What are the types of things that customers can reach out to the CSM teams about? Is it only technical problems, maybe strategic things? If I'm a customer and I've kind of written up a survey, but now I get into QuestionPro, I'm like, ooh, should I use branching logic here or skip logic or maybe extraction logic? Is that something to reach out to your team about? Tell us a little bit more about what are the types of things where we can help.
Absolutely. And I encourage every customer to reach out on, like, even if you're in the draft section or this draft phase of your project, you can reach out because things are changing constantly with QuestionPro. It's a vast platform, so many features coming in every day that are built to make your life easier. Reach out in even, okay, I'll give you this example. It's the best example because I love that customer till today for that. They were working on this project, right, which was going to happen 9 months down the line. Okay. He reaches out and he tells me point blank, he's like, dude, this is going to happen 9 months down the line. And I know what I need to do, but I don't know if I'm doing it right. And can you come on board? And it was a consultant. And can you come on board? We're having this massive meeting with this client who's going to debrief us. And I want you to be there, like just be quietly there and take notes. And after the meeting, tell me on a technical front, what's the best thing that we can do on QuestionPro and how can we wow this person, right? Because they're not representing QuestionPro. I'm representing my client who's consulting with someone else, and this is their vision that we need to buy in on. And we wanted to cut the Chinese whisper. Honestly, we just wanted to cut the whisper and drop of information that happens in that whole trail of information coming in. I love the client because they did not tell me who the end customer was. So we get on this meeting, and the meeting was only objective definition. We are not talking surveys. We are not talking research methodology. We are not talking about approach. We are only talking about this is my objective. This is what I want to meet. Just that. We got on the call with the Virgin Group, right? And I was wowed away when I got in over there because we had Richard Branson sitting over there trying to, it was his vision. And I'm a huge admirer. So first I slacked, I sent a LinkedIn message. I was like, dude, is it true? Is that like a cutout? And he's like, no, that's a vision. It's his vision is what we're trying to do. And I'm like, no way. I'm going to put everything that I have in me to get this done. But just coming back to the simplicity is the client got us in an objective discussion. Once we got to know what the objective of the whole project was, I could tell him how long the survey was, how short the survey could be, the logics that we would have to use, why not use a show and hide questions logic, why use an extraction logic, how to build the survey to keep in mind the experience of the person who's taking the survey. And then there was a goal at the end of the day, which means you need analytics in a certain way. So catering or reimagining the survey to meet the first design requirements and the experience on the front end, and then the reporting end, right? We needed that marriage. And he and I worked together for 4 months, just thinking about what the question should be, what the option should be, how does this look, how does this not look, how does this marry, how does this not marry. And I would keep giving him subtle hints that maybe in your next project meeting, put this out, just check if this works, just check if that works. The project went really smooth and everyone was really happy. And this just goes to tell you that you can involve anyone who's interested, can involve the QuestionPro rep in the conceptualization phase itself. Because if we are there, we can help you tweak what is possible, what's not possible. And you're also setting timelines. And my pain point is there. When you are talking about a project and you're talking about an objective, usually we always say, you know what, I need this done in 9 months. But if your scope is really, really wide, you need someone to tell you in 9 months, this is not possible. So maybe divide your scope. Right. What's really important and what's not really important. And we can do that if you need us to be there. So you can call the QuestionPro rep in any of those. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I mean, that's such a good note to close on. It goes to show, right, that we're not just there for technical help. We're really there to be strategic, right, to be a partner at the end of the day. Bring us into a client meeting with Richard Branson. We'll help project manage. We'll help find the strategy, and we're always there for you. So great note to close on. Adrian, thanks again for joining us today. For everybody out there, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the weekend ahead, and we'll be back next week to revisit the AI conversation. Hopefully give you some tips and tricks that you can use in your job today when it comes to research with AI. Thanks again, Adrian, and thanks everybody else. It was a great show.
Pleasure. Awesome. Have a good one.